morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. We have started class within a very few minutes. Let the other student may join, then we are starting. We are starting the class within a very few minutes. Others, let the other student may join, please. Good morning, everyone. Let's wait for the 1 2 minute more. Then we're starting the today's class. That is all about the BRM. We'll try to complete all the important topic which is about to become for all the competitive examination, whether it's a UGC net or wherever we do ask the question related with the BRM. To everybody to join the PRM class, so we can start only 27, 28 students have been joined out of the 450, 52, 50 students we have in the class. I think I don't have any idea about much idea about the question paper because I haven't made the question paper. But as per my understanding, the question paper will be divided as two parts: section A and section B. And section B will be the compulsory. Section A, you will get a certain question. Out of those certain questions, you have to attempt few questions. I don't have the exactly idea about what is the question pattern, but as per my understanding, there will be a two part in a at least in a BRM question paper, section A and section B. So, without further delay, we are starting the today's class that is all about BRM. So, once again, good morning, everybody. So, today's we'll try to be complete all the important topic for UGC NET paper one and the any other examination, whether the PP or MB or any examination which you are going to be given being a part of your course. So we are going to be speak the very important topic like what is BRM, what is research, what are the ethics of the ethical consideration of the good research, and after that what is the research process, then research design, followed by sampling, probability sampling, non-probability sampling, then the scaling, the what are the primary scales, what are the secondary scales we have, then the collection of the data, primary data and secondary data, and followed by in the meanwhile we'll try to teach you how to frame the hypothesis, what is the reliability of the data, how to check the reliability of the data, how to check the validity of the data, and how to interpret the output of the multiple regression, the correlation, the chi-square, and the ANOVA. Clear? So ask to everybody and ask to your classmate also, please join everybody so at least everybody can take the advantage of the lecture. So what is all about the research? Research may be defined as a systematic and objective analyze and recording of controlled observation that may lead to the development of generalization, principles or theories, resulting in the prediction of possibility, ultimate control of the event. Why we do the research? There are two major or basic reasons behind to do certain research. Sometimes we are doing the research is because of to find out something new and to find out something new in the existing one. So because research word is all about re plus search. So re plus search that means sometimes we whatever which is already happened in the past, you want to be add on certain new things, we do the research. Or sometimes we are doing any exploratory research, you are just finding out the altogether very new things. So research is an ongoing and a continuous process. It defined as a movement from known to the unknown. And it's an effort to discover something. Some people say that research is an effort to know more and the more about less and the less. So we want more and the more information, then we have to do the research. So what is the meaning? It is a serious academic activities. It is an academic activities in the same time in all the industries also. You'll see in since last 2 decades of the business search, what used to be have now what we have. But in each and every product we have certain product lines. I will always give the example of the very common and a famous example, the FMCG. In a shampoo, used to be the shampoo just before 2 decades, but now in a shampoo we have so many varieties. But in each and every product, just a mobile phone, you'll see Apple is doing the research and development, and every year coming with a new models, new design, new features. It is a part of the research. So it is a serious academic in the research and industrial activities set up the objective to explain or analyze or understand the problem to finding the solutions. A problem for adopting a systematic approach in collecting, organizing, analyzing the information related to the problem. So whatever the objectives you have, whenever we are starting in research, so we always have certain objective behind it, and we follow the systematic approach to do certain research. According to Guilford Woody, it comprises defining and redefining problems, formulating the hypothesis, suggested solutions, collecting and organizing and evaluating data, making the deductions, the reaching the conclusions, and as carefully testing the conclusions to determine whether they fit to formulate a hypothesis or not. But in the same time, we just need to be understand Whenever you are doing the research, we have to be reach out to the conclusions. Then only we can say our research part, as of now, is part our research part have been completed. So there are very basic objectives of research. Research is all about the determining the frequencies. It develop the focus and be focus being very specific. Is reveal the characteristics of the data and testing the hypothesis. Whatever the hypothesis you are making at the end of the day, you have to be test those hypotheses. Clear? So what is all about the hypothesis? We are coming on that on the further part. So these are the basic objectivity of the research. Determining the frequencies and how many times you are doing the same activities is develop the focus. It reveal the characteristics of the data, whatever the problems you are taking. Then at the end of the day, you have to be test the hypothesis. So it develop the focus. The research may be understand for becoming familiar with some phenomena or to get to know more in depth. For example, since the days of the steam engine, the research continued to come up with a more powerful locomotive which could be operated with alternative source of energy like diesel electricity. Now, we'll see in the since last 2 decades how the data, how the technology have been grown up so far. So it developed the focus. It's developed the characteristics to clearly reveal the characteristics of the individuals or situation. A group like a society of another type of research objective. For example, in these days before a criminal is sentenced, effort are taken to study why he had done criminal. So we just need to be understand something happened. So we just need to find out what was the reason behind it. If something happened to what, suppose that there was a ceasefire was announced just before 2 days. So we just need to find out the reasons. What are the we just need to reveal the characteristics. It is a part of the research. Determine the frequency of the occurrence. That means determine the frequency with the which something occurs with which is associated with something else. In social research, one of the major areas are repeated in the continuous research and analysis of poverty and unemployment. So we just need to. I have already given the example so many times the poverty and unemployment. You just want to be see the is impact of government schemes the poverty elevation. So you have to be continuously you have to make it out certain impact make it out the certain schemes and you have to be apply those schemes and on every 6 months and on every 1 year you have to be collect the data whether whatever the scheme which is running in the market whether those are impacting or eliminating the poverty or not. It tests the hypothesis is a perfectly fine whatever the objective you are making. So you have to frame the hypothesis whether you are in the right path or wrong path. Now it's a very important topic. What is the basic consideration or understanding the criteria of the good research? First is all about the clarity and the precise. So preciseness, good research to begin with a clear objective. Research always begin with the clear objective and the research questions. It is imperative to the articulate what the research intend to achieve and what it seeks to explore. So this should be very clarity what you are going to do. You have to be tell your managers, you have to tell your supervisors what, and it should be very preciseness. You can't say you just need to be solve the problem for the cross the globe. You can't do. So what you have to do? First, you have to solve the problem of your area, then the nearby area, then your town, then your city, then the your district, then your mandal, then the state, then the northern part, then southern part, then India, then Asia, then across the globe. So you have to be start your research with the very precise data. Then you are gradually you are increasing or expanding your sample size. The research objective should be define the goal of your research. Ensure they are clear, focus that enable. You can't make it out the very unclear or unfocused or you are just doing very vague or your objective is not attainable. Then research question. Further coming on the research question. Research question should be the uh, define well formulated research question, craft a question that guided your research path. It should be precise and manageable in the scope. You just need to be understand what is the scope of your research. Then the relevance or significance, then you have to be understand whatever the research you are doing, whether there is any relevance to the specific field or not. If there is no relevance of those research what you are doing, then you don't need to do anything. The research must contribute value to the fields. Whatever the fields you are taking, it should address a gap in the knowledge of solving specific problems. Then identify the gap, then what is already has happened if you are doing the same thing. Yes, I'll be sharing with the PPT, no worry. So Identifying the gap, if you are not, and how will you identify the gap? With the help of the literature review. If you are doing the same thing which has already happened in the past, so there is no need of the doing those research, and you are wasting your energy, you are wasting your resources of the country or of your company. Then you have to be understand what are the gaps you have. So identifying the gap, that gap is all about understanding what is already being happened. Then identify the area that requires further exploration. Then impact of the research, evaluate how your research contribute to the field. Consider its a practical application and theoretical applications. So whenever you are the ethical consideration in the same time, data should not be plagiarized. Data plagiarism, you just need to be checked. Data should not be plagiarized. If you are taking a citing certain data, it should be the properly acknowledgement. You just need to be note down this point, which is not enough PPT. It should not be plagiarized. You have to be acknowledge each and everything, whatever the data, whatever the quotations, whatever the definitions you are taking for your research, it should be the properly cited with the author name. Appropriate uses of tools and techniques you can't apply. I've been told so many times in the class, you can't use there is no one size fit at all. There are certain assumptions for multiple regression, there are certain assumptions of the chi-square, there are certain assumptions of the t-test, f-test, and or ANOVA. Then you have to be understand what appropriate use of the tools and techniques. Data should not be plagiarized. You have to be and whatever the data you are picking, it should be the properly acknowledged. Then the next in a same methodological rigor, the you have rigorous the methodology of the blueprint of the research. It should be systematic, appropriate, and the reproducible. Appropriate method selection. I'll discuss in the further slide what is the descriptive, exploratory, explanatory, qualitative, quantitative, prognostic, diagnostic. You can't apply all the research in every way. There are certain methods, there are certain assumptions for applying each and every research. Ethical consideration, research must be conducted with the integrity and respect for the ethical norms. Whatever the ethical norms we have, you have to be understand those ethical norms. The informed consent, obtain consent from the participant, ensuring they are well informed. If you are taking out data of the anyone, then you have to be informed those people. Respect their privacy and the confidentiality. If you are doing any primary research, then you sometimes research on specific disease, research on a specific topic, then you have to be respect their privacy. You can disclose their name, you can disclose their specific disease. Then at the same time, avoiding the biasness. Then at the end of the day, whatever the results and whatever the outputs are coming, you just need to be avoid those biasness. Whether results are coming in your favor or not, but we should be least bothered about those biasness. If we just need to be present the in an appropriate manner, in a true manner. Strive for the objectivity and the fairness. We always believe there should be the you are going to be put the fairness data. Then further coming on the research process consists of a series of action or steps necessary to effectively carry out the research. Always told starting from if I'll be explaining the research process, starting from identifying the problem. First is identifying the problem. Now after identifying the problem, then we have to be identifying the problem, diagnose the problem. So this is all about the problem identification. But in a problem identification, you have to be identify the problem, because once you are not able to identify the problem, what is the actual problem, you will not be able to do the research. Then the diagnose the problem. Then you have to make it out the research proposal. In a research proposal, what we are going to do in a research proposal, we are making out the because in a problem identification, how to identify the problem. This is very important topic because if you're not able to identify the problem, you have to be do certain literature review. You have to be read one paper, two paper, five paper, 10 paper, 100 paper, 500 paper, 100 theses, hundreds and hundreds pages of the data. Then only you just need to be understand what is the problem. Once the problem identifies, then you have to be understand, then diagnose the problem. Then in the same time, you have to be do the literature review related with your problem. If anybody, yeah, anyone of in the past who have already done the research related with your topic, then that is called a study of the past data is called literature review. On the basis of the literature review, you are finding out the research gap. And with the help of the research gap, you are finding out the research objective. Once you are able to frame the research objective, then we are coming to the research proposal. Then the research design. In the research design, we just need to be understood whether you are picking descriptive or explanatory, action or applied or pure. There are so many types of research design methods. With the data collection and preparation, data collection, we can do certain primary research also, secondary research also. In a primary, we have interview, questionnaire, scheduling, observations, Salesforce opinion, projective techniques, mechanical dice. Then data collection design. Then sampling design, probability sampling, non-probability sampling. We have certain probability sampling techniques. We have certain non-probability sampling. Then after we have to do instrument pilot testing. Then instrument revision. The instrument pilot testing is all about whatever the questionnaire you have made. We just need to do certain pilot testing with the, if your sample size is 1,000 people, but in the same time pilot testing you can pick out a sample of 50 people. Then you just need to be understand whether you are going in the right path or not. And finally, data collection preparation, then data analysis. Data analysis, again, I've been already told you, we have parametric test, we have a non-parametric test. You can't apply each and every test in every assumptions and everywhere. There are certain guidelines, there are certain assumptions, and you have to follow those assumptions. Then after the analysis, then we have to do hypothesis testing, research report, then management decision. This is the same problem identification I have already explained you. In a problem explain identification, you just need to be understand what is the management dilemma for that, what is the management questions you have, then you have to frame the research question, then investigative question, then the measurement question. This is a very detailed PP. You just need to be refer. Again, the management dilemma we have. Being a business research, you have to be understand if your product is not running properly, you are facing certain losses. Then you just need to find out. You just need to find out, or you have to be understand these many scenario. You just need to be understand these many aspect of the business research. What is the management dilemma for the particular product and services? What are management question, research question? In a management dilemma, you have to understand rising the cost of the product, declining the sales, or increasing the impact turnover. Then you just need to understand what are the actual problems. This is the same. The research proposal. Once the research is defined, the problem is defined. The researcher must be proposed in order to allocate the resources to the project. Project what, why, how, where, who will do, how will we do, where do we do, whom to do. We just need to be give the answer to these many questions. The research will be done. It must allow show the benefit of doing the research. A written proposal is often required and is desirable for establishing the agreement on a number of issues. The research proposal may be also be oral or written. The same thing I have already told you. These are the points sampling design will take one by one. Now coming to the next topic, that is all about the research design. Research design, if you want a detailed topic for each and every topic, I already shared the PPT, and if you are clicking on the what's the research design, there will be a separate video link will be open. You can watch each and every lecture for each and every topics we have. But here I just need to be revised all the topic. So what is research design? Research design refers to the overall strategy that you choose to integrate a different component of the study in the coherent and the logical way, thereby ensuring you will be effectively address the research problem. In a research design, you just need to understand how to make it out the overall strategy and how to perform the research. So the functions of research design is to ensure that the evidence obtained enables you to effectively address the research problem logically in the as possible. In social science research, obtaining the information relevant to the research problem. This is very basic. We are further coming on the classification of research. This is very important. Based on the intent, based on the methods. Based on the intent, we have pure research, applied research, exploratory, descriptive, diagnostic, action, and the evaluation. Based on the method, we have experimental, analytical, historical, and the survey. Okay, the fundamental basic are we do call pure research also. Pure or basic research is a search for the broad principle and is synthesis without or immediate utilization objective. It is not concerned with solving any practical problem or policy, but designing the fascinating tools of analysis with the discovering underlying impossible universal laws and theories. John Robinson imperfect competition, the Chamberlain's monoplastic competition. So what we do is need to do in a pure and fundamental. Basically, we do use these many research in our sciences, and there is no, and in the same time we are not concerned about solving any practical problem. Whenever we want to be create any theory or theorem, just need to be understand the example. Whenever we want to be create the theory or theorem, we apply the basic fundamental of pure research. Then action or applied research, sometimes whenever we are just need to be solve the immediate problem. Just like if you are working in a medical industry, any accident occurs, you are in emergency at an emergency counter, emergency desk, where you have to be solve the immediate problem. In terms of the business research, if suppose that your sale have been declined in the last month, then you have to be take the immediate action. So applied research, also known as action research, is associated with a particular project in the problem. Such research, being of the practical value, may relate to the current activities or immediate practical situation. It aims to finding out solution for an immediate problem facing a society practically. Clear? So if anything happened in the past, you just need to be understand how to solve the immediate problem with the help of the tools and techniques. Suppose that what was happening just before the 80s with the India and the Pakistan, when the Pakistan started attacking to the Indian civilians or the Indian universities or Indians defense system. But during that time, the defense no needed to be take the permissions or make it out any strategy to how to control this meeting. They have been taken the they have been taken the immediate decisions to at least control their attack. So whenever we are facing any problem is related with the business, it's just like when the government of India have imposed the complete lockdown back 2020, and you are running your business in offline, the online. So your offline store have been shut down. Then what you have to do? Then you have to be more focused on the online, whatever the inventory you had in offline store. Then you have to be and transfer those inventory from the offline store to the online store, because in online store, online delivery for the essential items was during that time was uh, allow for the government of the India. So you just need to be take care how to take the immediate decision whenever you are facing a problem. Then your descriptive research is a very important. What is all about descriptive? Descriptive is all about you have to be describe the problem with the demographic characteristics. Giving the example of the same example how the impact of government scheme for poverty elevation. The first you have to be understand the what is the actual problem. Then only you can take the decision. Describe something what is already happened in the past and what is happening. Then you have to be apply the descriptive research. Just need to be understand what is already happened in the past and what is happening. Then you can apply the descriptive. In a descriptive, we just need to be describe the problem. In terms of the business research, if your product got failed in the market or is still not running successfully, then you just need to be you can apply the descriptive research. So it is designed to describe something such as demographic characteristics of consumers who use the product. It is designed to describe something such as demographic characteristics of consumers who use the product. It deals with determining frequency with something occurs or how two variables vary together. I've been giving the example of for example, investigation of the trends, the consumption of the soft drinks in relation to the rational economic characteristics: age, gender, ethnic group, families, income, education level, geographical. The descriptive research is all about you just need to be understand. You just need to be describe the more problem. Then if you are able to understand the characteristic of the demographic and the problem, then you can take the appropriate decision. What is the merit of the descriptive research? This approach helps to test the conclusion and finding the arrived at the basis of laboratory studies. The direct contact between the researcher and the respondent is brought about in this approach, because the researcher is directly try to be understand with the consumers who have been faced the problem with the product and services. So if we are if the researcher is reaching out to the consumer, why you are not taking my product? What is the problem? Earlier you used to be take my product, now why you are not taking my product? Then this is the reason descriptive research. We are diagnosing the problem, diagnosing the characteristics. So we have the direct contact between the researcher and the respondent. What are the limitations? This is it requires a huge cost. It requires a huge time also. Whenever you just need to be reveal more and more characteristics, you revealing more in the more demographic data, it will be require the more in the more cost involvement. We require the more in the more time incurred. The historical research, I've been given the example of the Taj Mahal or some Gandhiji or any if you are doing research on the World War One and World War Two. The name suggests in the approach, historical data is given importance is to undertake analysis and interpret the result. Following this approach, the researcher would collect past data for his research. So this approach allowing the relevant certain type of researcher, for example, to understand trends in Indian export, you just need to be whenever you are just making out a research on the past data or on historical data, we apply the historical research. Then coming on the qualitative and quantitative research design is a very important. I'm just telling you it's a very important. Okay, what is the qualitative and quantitative research design? So qualitative explore the understand the meaning, experience, and the concept through the non-numerical data. Wherever you are doing any thematic research or not related with the collecting the data through the questionnaire. So making out taking any applying with the observation or taking any interview, we do apply the qualitative research. Quantitative test the hypothesis, examine the relationship using the numerical data and the statistical. Whenever we are applying multiple regression, t-test, z-test, apt-test, ANOVA, correlation, logistic regression, so we do quantitative research design. The nature of the data, non-numerical is the words, images, observation. We have the numerical data. What is the purpose of qualitative research? Is to gain the deep insight into the participant perspective, behavioral. So all those people who are in a psychology or making out the research, doing the research in the people who are living in the old age houses, or if you want to be see the psychology of the certain kids or certain students. So what is the purpose? To give deep insight into the participant perspective. Here we just need to quantify the variables and generalize the result from sample to the population. What is the approach? We follow the inductive approach in a qualitative, but we follow the deductive approach in a quantitative. What are the tools and techniques? You just need to be understand. We take the interview, focus group, observation, case study, content analysis, survey. In a quantitative, we do the survey, experiment, structure observation, existing data sets. Sample size usually because in a whenever you want to be take the interview, you can't take the interview of the 1,000 and 5,000 people. Usually we always keep the very specific or very small samples in a qualitative result. But in a quantitative, you can circulate. If you are making the Google form, you can send to the 10 lakh people also. They can fill the form. In the same time, putting down the data of the 1 lakh people on the SPSS or on MOS on any software on R on Excel, you can make it out the conclusive statement. So in a sample size, usually we always have the large or representative. Outcomes is all about very rich or detailed descriptions we do with the qualitative. We just need to find out the themes and pattern. Quantitative is the statistical analysis. We just need to find out the relationship between the age and the gender, age and the IQ and the agriculture and the rainfall. Flexibility, flexible, the open-ended. Design may evolve during the study because whenever you are taking the interview, you are giving a full freedom to the respondent. So it's a more flexible, more open-ended, and it's evolving during the study. But in terms of quantitative, we have the structure and the fix. Data analysis, we do the just need to understand we do the thematic, narrative, and content analysis. But in the quantitative, we do descriptive, inferential, regression, ANOVA, and the t-test. Then coming to the exploratory research analysis, most of the marketing research project being with the exploratory. It is conducted to explore the possibility of doing a particular project. The major emphasis is on the discovery of the ideas. Whenever you just find out, whenever you're looking for to find out something very new, we always follow the exploratory research and framing the hypothesis. Framing the hypothesis is very difficult. Hypothesis is very difficult. You just need to understand. So, so for example, soft drink firms might conduct an exploratory study to generate the possible explanation. The exploratory study is used to split the broad and the vague problem into the smaller, more precise some problem statement in the form of specific hypothesis. So exploratory, whenever you just find out something very new in the existing data, we do follow the exploratory research. To design a problem for investigation, determine the priorities of the further research, to gather the data about the practical problem for carrying out research on the particular contextual statement, to increase the interest of the analysis toward the problems, and to explain the basic concept. Then the experimental research. The experimental research is all about the need to be remember the example of age varies the IQ. Everybody knows once your age will be increased, your IQ will be increased. But where is the experiment? You just need to do the experiment. There is no impact of the age on the IQ. Or the other very common or example, the agriculture, rainfall affect agriculture. Everybody knows there are optimum level of rainfall, so there will be optimum level of agriculture. So, but you just need to be proved, you just need to be understand there is no impact of the rainfall on the agriculture. This is the experiment you are doing. So whenever you are just framing the hypothesis and you just want to be prove your hypothesis is correct or incorrect, So it's a very scientific approach. In this approach, the researcher first determine the problem to be studied. Firstly, you have to determine the problem. Then the researcher identify the factors that cause the problem. Then you have to understand what are the factors which is affecting the variables. The problems to be proved in the quantify and taken as a dependent variable. The factors causing to the problems will be taken as independent variables. Done? So age varies the IQ. So age is the independent variable and IQ is the dependent variable. So IQ is impacting on the age. So independent variables, which is totally controllable. You can't manipulate, you can't fabricate, right? You can't increase or decrease the age. After 365 days, you will be 1 year more older. So you can't decrease or increase the age with any external factors. After if today you are 20 and after 5 years you will be 25. You can't do anything. So age is the independent variable, IQ is the dependent variable. You just need to be understand IQ is how the IQ is just impacting just because of the age. The factor causing the problem will be taken as the independent variables. So here we just need to be understand there is no impact of the age on the IQ. There are some other factors. Other factor is all about we are giving certain specific training and keeping those kids, keeping those people in a very controlled environment, and giving certain very rigorous training. That this is the only reason their IQ level have been increased. The, then the diagnostic research we do apply in medical sciences whenever we are reaching out to the doctors. To what doctors does? Doctors first write down certain always write certain tests. We always go to certain laboratory, diagnose the problem, then doctor cure the problem. So this is similar to the descriptive, but medical basically we are using in a medical science. Diagnose the problem, then cure the problem. Clear? This is all about the research design. Now, again, it's a very important topic. What is the validity and the reliability? What is all about the validity? There are still only 26 people who have been joined. Please do ask to everybody. I'm taking the classes from the college and spending my 2 hours just because of you. This is not compulsory and there is no not is a mandatory classes. As a courtesy call, I'm just taking the classes. Only 35, 30, 40 students are joining. We ask to everybody, please join. Send the message in your unofficial group because now remaining topics are very important. Just taking the pause for the 1 minute, ask to everybody to join fast. So further, without any delays, I just need to be complete fast. What is the validity and what is the reliability? Validity is all about whatever the data you are taking, whatever the skills you are making, skills, whatever the questionnaires you means making in a research, we do call scale. So because if your research is going in a right direction or not, you just need to be understand. So validity is all about, are you measuring what you are intent to be measure, जो आप कर रहे हैं, that is perfectly fine or not. But at the end of the day, if your scale is not good, your questionnaire is not good, you are not able to find out the good output. So validity refers to the accuracy and the truthfulness of the measurement tools, whatever the measurement tool you are taking, whether the instrument measures what is supposed to be measured. You just need to be understand what is supposed to be measured, what you are measuring or not. Can you share some tips to answer questions in the exam? I'll tell you. Types of validity is face validity, content validity, construct validity, criteria related validity. Validity is all about just need to understand what is the accuracy and truthfulness of measurement tools, whatever the measurement tools you are taking. Whether the instrument measures what is supposed to be measured, types of validity, face in a types of validity we have face validity. Does the test appear to the measure the concept? Just like a most basic form or subjective in the nature. In terms of the content validity, it's does the instrument cover the full range of the concept measuring? You just need to be understand whether the your instrument means the questionnaire you are. If you are collecting the data through the questionnaire, to be called questionnaire as an instrument. Collecting the data through the observation or interview, that instrument we are talking about. Does the instrument cover the full range of the concept or not? Then the construct validity. Does this truly measure the theoretical construct? Because whenever you are doing the research, you have to make first you have to make the theoretical model. On the basis of the theoretical model, you are going to be apply the practical model. So in a construct validity, you just need to be understand does the is truly measure the theoretical construct or not. Include the convergent and the discriminant validity. Then criteria related predictive and concurrent. Predictive is all about can the tool predict the future outcomes? Whatever the research you are doing, whether the predictive validity can the tool predict the future outcomes or not. So whatever the tools as of now you are making, that particular tools can predict the future outcomes or not. In a concurrent, we just need to be understand does this correlate with the existing validated tools or not. We have we have the in a survival model I've been told in a service marketing made by the Parasuraman. You just need to be understand whatever the tools you are making, whether it's correlated with the existing validated tools or not. Then coming under the reliability, in the reliability we have discussed also. I have shown you my paper. Here we just need to be check the reliability with the Cron-based alpha. Clear? So we do use the Cron-based reliability. Reliability is about the consistency or stability of the measurement. Whether you get the same result if the measurement is repeated under the same condition. If your data is fine, your data is perfectly fine, and if your reliability is coming more than the 0.6, that means your data is reliable, and you can further apply the tools and techniques. And what is the literal meaning of the reliability is all about? It's a consistency. If you are applying the same tools and techniques in an n number of times, your result would be remain same. Got it? आज आपने कोई एक टूल्स एंड टेक्निक्स अप्लाई किए नहीं, यू आर अप्लाइंग दोज टूल्स एंड टेक्निक्स सेम इन आफ्टर 5 days 10 days with the same conditions, your result would be remain. कोई भी बहुत बड़ा डिफरेंसेस आप कोई भी डिफरेंसेस आपको देखने को नहीं मिलेगा. दिस इज कॉल्ड reliabilities. So we have the types of reliabilities. Clear? Now, test of reliability. So we do test the reliability with the Cron-based alpha. I've already told you if Cron-based alpha is coming more than the 0.6, that means data is appropriate. You can further apply the tools and techniques. If your Cron-based alpha is more than 0.8, zero point 0.9, higher, it can't be more than the 1. You just need to be understand. If it's less than zero point 0.4, less than zero point 0.3, that means the data is not reliable. You have to be change your tools. Got it? If somebody is asking if your data is not reliable, the value is coming less than zero point 0.6, what you have to do? Then you have to be test the tools and you have to be eliminate or some certain questions and you have to be apply some more questions. So in a types of reliabilities, we have test retest reliabilities, we have inter-rater reliabilities, parallel form reliability, internal consistency. Test retest reliability, the same test is administered at a two different times to the same group. What it? Test retest. Inter-rater, consistency between different observers or raters. That means I am observing certain data and now you are observing the same data with the same population. But data, if the reliability is coming on the same. Clear? There are two questionnaire, there are two, whatever the tools you are taking. The same tools have been applied with the two peoples on the same respondent. That is called inter-rater reliabilities. Parallel form reliabilities, two different versions of the test yield similar result. In the same time, you are making the two different tools. Whether you are taking the interview or questionnaire, open-ended and the closed-ended questionnaire, but in the same time, and applying those two similar forms with the on same data, and you are getting a similar result. Then we have the internal consistency reliability, consistency within test itself. We measured using the Cron-based alpha. I have been told you also how to apply through the Cron-based alpha. Clear? Because the paper is and the paper is on all the competitive examination, whether the academic examination, they are based on the paper pen. So you don't need to be apply on the SPSS. Even I can show you the SPSS data also, how to apply the Cron-based alpha. Clear? Then you have to go to the reliability, select the Cron-based alpha. Cron-based alpha is coming more than 0.6, that means data is reliable. Got it? Now coming on the next topic, that is called sampling. What is all about sampling? I've already told you, in across the globe we have almost 800 crore people. You can't collect the data from the 800 crore people or 8 billion people. You have to be under in the static denote the aggregate form which samples is to be taken. Population can be defined as including all the peoples and items with the characteristics one wishes to the understand. There is a very rarely enough time to money to gather information from everyone or the everything in the population. The goal become finding a representative. So आप पूरी दुनिया से डेटा कलेक्ट नहीं कर सकते. It is next to impossible. It is next to impossible to collect the data from the each and every people who are living across the globe. Then what we do? So we do certain sampling on the basis of certain sampling techniques. Got it? So sampling frame is the list which the potential respondents are drawn. If you want to be see the impact of the education system, if you want to be just want to see the correlation between the education system of MBA college with the placement of the Bangalore. More than the lakhs and lakhs people are passing out in every year in across from at least from the India only. If you want to make it out the correlation from the quality of the education and the MBA placement. So this is next to impossible to collect the data from more than 1,000 university and 1,000 colleges in India we have. So first you can do, you just need to pick the sample from the Bangalore. In the Bangalore, you are picking out the very few university, Alliance and Christ or in the same range Presidency or PE's RB University. You've been taken out the five university. You have been taken out the syllabus and the teaching pedagogy. In the same time, you have been taken out the data of the placement of the each and every college, and you are just finding out the correlation between the place, the teaching pedagogy and the teaching and the quality of the education with the placement. So sample is a very smaller collection of the unit from a population used to determine truth about the population. So we can't pick out the data from the across the India's college for of the MBA students. We are picking out the only five universities. That is called sample. Now picking out those 200 people, picking out those five universities, picking out those five universities, and data and from each universities, we are taking out data of the 200 students. 200 is five, became the 1,000 students. And how you are those picking 1,000 students? That is called sampling. The process of learning about the population on the basis of sample drawn. What are the bases you have been picked up? What are the bases you have been taken? And the process of learning about the population on the basis of sample drawn from it is called sampling. So there are basic criteria as to pick the sampling. I will pick in the next slide. But this is all about sampling process, very important. The first is determining the population of the concern. Population of the concern is the MBA student. Clear? Specifying a sampling frame, set of the items or event possible to the major, set of items you are picking the MBA placement, salary, companies, teaching pedagogy, number of hours they are teaching, and syllabus. Second, after that, Specifying sampling method for selecting the items or event. Then what are the sampling methods you are picking? Whether random sampling, non-random sampling, cluster sampling, multi-phase, multi-stage, sequential, snowball sampling. Then you just need to understand determine sample size. If you are picking the 200 student from the one college, then you have to pick the 200 student from the each college, whatever the colleges you are picking, that is for 200 to 5,000. Then identify implementing sampling plan, then whatever the plan you have made, implement, then sample and data collection. So this is in a sequence only. Clear? Starting from determining the subsampling populations to last sampling and data collection. Now this is again very important. What are the essential or basic criteria to choose a sample? First is representative, ensured by the random selection. If you are picking the five universities, so what if in a each and every student in a each and every university, suppose there's 5,000 students, then you are picking only 100. So whatever the 200 students you are picking, those 200 students should be represent the whole society or whole college or, and across all the data. So educate data should be in a sample size should be educate. If you are picking only one or two, and those one or two are giving positive and negative, so you can't make it out any contrary statement. Data should be an adequate number. Independency, same chance of selection. Data should be an independent in the nature and homogeneity. No basic differences in the nature of. Aman, very good morning. Homogeneity, no basic differences in the nature of the units. If you are picking as 200 students from the one college, it should be the same. If you're picking 200 students from one college, you should need to pick 200 from the each and every college. In terms of the अगर MBA का pick कर रहे हैं, then you have to pick from the each and every college from the MBAs, MBA, BBA, BTech. So characteristics should be the same. This should be the homogeneity. So these are the four basic criteria to pick the sampling. Now coming under the sampling methods, we have the probability sampling, we have non-probability sampling. Then we have certain multi-mix also. So we are more concerned with the probability and non-probability. Probability is all about the in a probability sampling we do the everybody is going to be get the equal chance. Probability is all about the random sampling, non-probability is non-random sampling. The literal meaning of the probability sampling is all about everybody is going to get the equal chance to select, that is called probability sampling. And in a non-probability sampling, everybody will not get the equal chance to select, that is called non-probability sampling. So we have certain methods of probability sampling and we have certain methods of non-probability sampling. Got it? So we are starting from the non-probability sampling. So first is all about the judgmental or purposive sampling or deliberate sampling. Depend exclusively on the judgment of the investigator. Judgmental means whenever the researcher is making out taking judgment on the basis of the past experience or the present experience. That is called judgmental sampling. So is sometimes if you are thinking if you want to be make it out the biasness of the result, if you want to be fabricate or manipulate the result, you can follow the judgmental sampling. Because researcher sometimes not having the perfect idea about the placement of MBA colleges. If suppose that I've been given the example of the teaching pedagogy, quality of education with a placement or fees ROI. We are doing research on the ROI. Let's suppose that, and what you are doing, ROI, how much fees you are paying and how much placement you are getting. Judgments you are making a research area is a Bangalore, and you are reaching out to the SP Jain or reaching out to the IM Bangalore or TAPMI, then you will see that there is a greater chance of the ROI. So if you are taking out the judgment on the basis of researcher is reaching out to the IMs, making out the collaboration, making out the collaboration with the ROI, you can get it a very good ROI. But at the same time, any private university you are taking, then you are able to try to relate with the ROI. It's a very little chances to get it a very good ROI. So judgmental on the basis of the past experience of the researcher. What are the merits of judgmental sampling? A small number of sampling units. In large number you can't do the judgmental sampling, but in a small number you can do the judgmental. Study unknown traits case sampling. Urgent public policy and business decision, we apply judgmental sampling. Demerits personal prejudice and the biasness I've already told you. Next is all about the convenience sampling. Convenience sampling is all about If you're living near to suppose that the Chandapura area, or you're living the Connaught Place area to Delhi, or living the very prime location of the any specific city, Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Delhi, Lucknow, Chandigarh, then what you are doing, as per your convenience of the, suppose that you are doing the research, same research, you want to check the ROI of whatever the fees you are paying and how much placements you are getting, what you are doing, you are reaching out to the colleges that is near to your place. So convenient sampling units selected, convenient neither by probability nor by judgment, merits useful in a pilot study, result usually biased or unsatisfactory. Those just need to be see whether these many colleges and these many universities are near to you, reach out to those places and making out a final conclusion. This is example of convenience sampling. Class of the 100 student, 20 students selected as per their convenience. So आपने यहाँ पे देख रहे हैं, you have the 100 student out of those 100 student. तो आपको दो first row में in the first two row में you got it the 20 student who have been picked up those 20 students. It might have certain possibility of sitting who are the backbenchers, they are having the more skills, but what you are taking, you are picking only those 20 students. Then the quota sampling. In a quota sampling, I have the perfect example is all about the reservation. In India reservation system, it's not a railway, it's not a railway, it's a reservation system of the caste. So we have a 27% for the OBCs, 21% for the ST and HT, then we have a PWD, now we have the EWS also. So being in a general categories, so we have less than only the 40% seats. The 100 jobs are coming from the government organizations, whether UPSC or banks or any competitive examination. Only 40 and 45 goes to general categories, and remaining, even though these many people who are belong to reserve category, they also can fight with the general category, but general category can't fight with the these many reserve category. Got it? I think it's a perfect example. Everybody's know what is the quota sampling. So most commonly used in non-probability sampling, quota set up according to some specified characteristics. I think everybody knows the quota sampling. So this is an example. You are doing the research of gender, male and female. So out of the 100 people, you are picking 60% male and 40% female. So 80% male and 20% female. So if your sample is 100 and you have been fixed the quota of 80% female and 20% male. So 80% female, 20% female, that means 80 and 20. And at the end of the day, you are saying weightage of females data is more as compared to the female. Yes, 100%, because you are picking out the data of the 80 people as compared to the 20% male only. So quota can be on the basis of anything. Then the very important and very it's not a very common snowball sampling. Snowball sampling we are performing a snowball sampling for a very specific disease, for a specific drugs. So if any psychologist or any doctors are doing research impact of the drugs addiction on the psychology of the individuals, then you just need to collect the data from those people who consume the drugs on the regular basis. So for those, you just need to reach out those peoples. Then how you can reach out those peoples? The special non-probability methods used when the desired sample characteristics are very rare. Easily you can't collect the data. Clear? It may be extremely difficult or cost prohibitive to locate the respondent in these situations. Snowball sampling relies on the referrals from initial subject to the gendered additional subject. Then what we do in a snowball sampling, if suppose that you are doing research on the drug addictions of people who consume drugs on a regular basis and how it's impacting on their psychology, you are giving the responsibility to 10 people. Suppose that you know the 10 people who do consume the drugs, but your sample size is 1,000 people. Yeah, 5,000 people. Then what you are doing, you are giving the responsibility on behalf of the researchers to those 10 people. Please try to collect the data on behalf of me. Then those 10 people are taking the data from another 10 people. Then another those 10 people are collecting the data from the another 10 people. Then this is called snowball sampling. So make contact with the one or two cases in the population. Ask these cases to identify the further cases. This is the same thing I've been told. दो से बोला दो लोग 5 लोग 10 लोग they are again collecting the data on behalf of you. Got it? Coming on probability sampling. This was all about the non-probability sampling. The first is all about simple random sampling. Each unit has an equal opportunity of the being selected. Clear? Chances determine which items shall be included. Simple random. Suppose that you are doing the research. If you want to check the feedback of any university, you are standing in front of the university. If 10,000 people are coming on, 10,000 students are coming on every day, you are just picking up the data from 100 people on a randomly basis. Sample is simply randoms if any all items selected independently. Each selection, all remaining items have some chance of being selected. All the possible sample of given sample size and equally likely to be selected. This can be the lottery method. This can be the random number tables. There are certain businesses still in the excise department or some other lot in some other tendering, in a government tendering, we do follow the lottery system, putting down certain cheats with the name of the contractor, so putting in one basket or one jar, and on random basis we are picking out. This is a simple random. There is no biasness for simple random. It's simple, more representative of the population. Accuracy can be assessed. Demerits requires completely catalogs universe. Then state of random sampling again will moving forward fast. I've already told you we have the dedicated lecture for each and every topic whatever we are discussing in the my YouTube channels. You can refer those things if you want detailed information. The state of sampling universe is subdivided into the mutually exclusive groups. Simple random sampling is that chosen independently from the age group. So what we do in the state of sampling, whenever you just need to be whenever we are converting to the heterogeneous population, heterogeneous population to heterogeneous to homogeneous. So whenever you have the heterogeneous population, you just need to be convert the heterogeneous to the homogeneous. We do follow the stratified sampling. We make the certain different strata on the basis of the common characteristics. Clear? The same example I have been given. Impact of the quality of the education on the MBA placement. You have been picked up the 5 colleges. You are making out the stratified sampling. So you have made the 5 different strata from the each college: MBA, BBA, BCA, BTech, or law department. At the end of the day, you just need to be see the placement. So you are taking the 5 different strata. So you can't compare with the computer science placement with the MBA placement. You can't compare with the computer science placement with the BCA or the BBA. So you are making out the 5 different strata of the each colleges: BBA, BCA, law, computer science, BTech, and the MBA. Then we are comparing with the MBA placement from one college to other college, BTech from one college to other colleges. The state of a random sampling is all about whenever we have data is heterogeneous in the nature, we just need to be converted to the homogeneity. And from once you have made certain strata, then you are picking out data from each and every strata. Clear? So we have made the different strata from each strata, from MBA strata, BTech and BCA and the law, we are picking out certain data. That is called the strata by sampling. Merits more representatives, greater accuracy, greater geographical concentration. Demerit utmost care in dividing this data. Yes, you have to be very careful whenever you are framing this data. The skilled sampling supervisors and all those people who are making other data, they should be very skilled. And cost per observation may be very high. Yes, sometimes because it's required the more cost, it's required more time. If required more time, it is required more cost. Clear? Then the systematic sampling, systematic random sampling. Clear? We do call systematic random sampling. I will give you an example of the random sampling. If you are suppose that you want to collect the data of, you want to take the feedback of the university, you are standing in front of the university, you want to collect the data from the 100 people. अब किसी से भी randomly you are pick कर रहा है 100 लोगों, that is called random sampling. For systematic random, what you do, you have been picked up the very first people, that is called randomly. Then what you are making now, suppose the लोग 10,000 people are coming on every 10,000 लोग 10,000 लोग रोज कॉलेज में आ रहे हैं. Clear? Now what you are doing in systematic random, पहला आपने randomly pick कर लिया. Now what you decided, every fifth people will be coming or entering an university, I'll collect the data from those people. अब हर जो फिफ्थ लोग आएगा यूनिवर्सिटी में एंटर करेगा, I'll take the data from those people. That is called systematic random sampling. Got it? Cluster sampling technique, which is the entire population of interest and divided into groups of cluster and are random samples of these clusters selected. Now we are making out the clusters. What we have been done in stratified sampling, we have made the strata on the basis of common characteristics. Then from the east strata, we have picked up certain population. But what we do in a cluster sampling, we are making out certain cluster and we are picking out the full cluster for the data collection. So each cluster must be mutually exclusive and together. The cluster must include the entire population After cluster are selected, then the all units within the cluster are selected. No unit from non-selected cluster or included in the sample. समझ गए? आपने क्लस्टर बनाया MBA, BBA, BCA, LLB और कंप्यूटर साइंस, तो पूरे पूरे क्लस्टर को आप लोगे डेटा अपने रिसर्च के लिए, दैट इज कॉल्ड क्लस्टर सैम्पलिंग. सो क्लस्टर सैम्पलिंग इज ऑल अबाउट मेकिंग आउट द क्लस्टर ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ द कॉमन कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स एंड यू आर टेकिंग आउट द फुल क्लस्टर फॉर योर रिसर्च, दैट इज कॉल्ड क्लस्टर सैम्पलिंग. क्लस्टर बना लिया आपने ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ द इनकम 0 to 2 lakh, 2 to 4 lakh, 4 to 6 lakh, 6 to 8 lakh, and you are taking out the full cluster for your research. और आपको और समझ में फॉर द बेटर बेटर क्लस्टर अंडरस्टैंडिंग और ठीक से समझने के लिए आई मेड द डिफरेंस बिटवीन स्टेटाफाई एंड द क्लस्टरिंग. In a Stata file, all state are represented in sample. सारे स्टेटा में कुछ कुछ लोगों को लेते हैं. In a clustering, what we do, only subset of the clusters are in the sample. Less error compared to the simple random. More error होता है, so chances of the error is more because you are picking out the full cluster. Is a more expensive, is a reduced cost to the sample only the some areas of organization. Cluster is most economical form because you have been picked up the full MBA, full BBA, larger sample for similar fixed cost. अब MBA में से 500 बच्चे MBA की, उसमें से 10 उठा रहे हैं आप, या यू आर पिकिंग आउट द 500, cost will be remain same. Less time for listing and implementation, reduce the travel and the other administrative costs. Demerits may not reflect to the diversity of the community. Yes, chances of the standard error is very high in a cluster sampling. Now multi-stage sampling. Multi-stage and cluster is somehow same. Sampling process carried out in a various stages, an effective strategy because it banks on multiple randomization is used frequently when a complete list of all the members of the population does not exist is inappropriate. Example, we are making out a different multi-stage of the data. Age group of 0 to 5, 5 to 10. If you are making out any pharmaceutical drugs, any tablet आप बना रहे हैं paracetamol की, you want to be see the impact of, you want to be see the efficiency of that paracetamol drugs on different age group. क्लियर? तो अलग अलग एज ग्रुप पे आप उसको क्योर करने की एफिशिएंसी को यू वांट टू बी चेक, देन व्हाट वी डू, we have made the certain multi-stage 0 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 16. These stages in a we have been given example multi-stage. Stage 1 is all about the country. We want to see the impact of the country, then the segment, then the household, then the individuals. We want to see the income level of impact of the income level on the consumption pattern, how they are earning. पूरे देश का इनकम लेवल क्या है और कंजम्पशन पैटर्न क्या है, देन सेगमेंट, स्पेसिफिक सेगमेंट, नॉर्दर्न एरिया, ईस्टर्न एरिया, देन हाउसहोल्ड, देन द इंडिविजुअल, दैट इज कॉल्ड मल्टी स्टेज. Got it? Any doubt? Now next is the sampling techniques. See, I have made the link on each and every video. If you're clicking on sampling technique, then you'll be the new YouTube link will be opened. Got it? Next is scaling techniques. Scaling techniques is all about the whatever the data has been collected, that you will collect through the any forms of data collection techniques. वो एक रॉ डेटा होता है. रॉ डेटा को यू जस्ट नीड टू बी कन्वर्ट इनटू द फाइनल डेटा टू अप्लाई एनी मेजरमेंट टूल्स टेक्निक, दैट इज कॉल्ड स्केलिंग. अब इस बॉटल में कितना वाटर है, कितना पानी है, हाउ विल यू मेजर? So because we have the separate tools techniques to measure the data, for the liquid we have a different measurement, for the height we have a different measurement, for weight we have a different measurement, for fever we have a different measurement, for heart related disease we have a different measurements, for temperature we have a different measurement, for blood pressure we have a different measurement. So we have certain measurement tools and techniques to measure the data. So what is all about the, as discussed earlier, data consists of the quantitative and various like a price, income, sales, qualitative like a knowledge, performance and character. So the qualitative information must be converted into the numerical forms for further analysis. This is possible through the measurement and scaling techniques. So we before we proceed further, it will be meanwhile worthwhile to understand the following two items: to terminology measurement and the measurement and the scaling. So measurement is the process of observing and recording the observations that are collected as a part of the research. The recording of the observation may be in terms of numbers or the symbols to characteristics of object according to certain prescribed rules. The respondent characteristics are feeling, attitude, opinions. The most important aspect of the measurement is the specification of the rules for assigning numbers to characteristics. So you just need to be understand. Suppose that if you want to see the attitude, to see the perceptions or opinions of the ABC, clear? Then what we have to do will be how you will be measure the attitude or the opinions of. Then you have to make it out the question on the liked scale with 1 to 5, whether you are liking this marker or not. Then you can make it out 1 to 5 strongly agree to the strongly disagree. The scaling is the assignments to object to numbers or semantic according to the rule. In scaling, the objects are text statement, usually statement of the attitude, opinions. जैसे आप स्केल कर रहे हैं उसको कि किसी ने बोला कि दिस मार्कर इज वेरी गुड, सपोज इट हाउ विल बी, इसको मेजर कैसे करें, हाउ विल यू मेजर वेदर इज मार्कर इज गुड और नॉट. We just need to be give certain, do certain coding. If we are somebody putting down the 1 to 5, 1 is for strongly agree, 5 for the strongly disagree. So scaling is the assignment of object to numbers or semantic according to the rules, whatever the rules you are making. Issues that then coming to the levels of measurements, we have four major: nominal, ordinal, ratio, and the interval. These are the very basic and the very primary scales. Nominal scale is a very popular or but we don't make it out any conclusive statement with the nominal scale. Nominal scale is just giving the only nomification or giving the only identification of the data. Aadhaar card number, PAN card number is the example of the nominal scale. Can you make it out any conclusive statement with आधार कार्ड? नो. आधार कार्ड का नंबर से क्या, आधार कार्ड का नंबर केवल ये डिनोट कर रहा है ये आधार कार्ड एबीसी का है, ये इसका है, ये इसका है. पैन कार्ड नंबर डिनोट इन द ओनली इंडिविजुअल्स. यू कांट मेक इट आउट एनी conclusive स्टेटमेंट ऑफ दोस 12 डिजिट ऑफ द आधार कार्ड नंबर. उससे कुछ ये नहीं निकाल सकते कौन कितना पैसे वाला है, हाउ मच मनी दे हैव, how much age they have. You can't make it out any statement with that Aadhaar card number. In the same time, whatever the jersey number of the cricketers Virat Kohli, Dhoni, Savin, or Virat Kohli or Rohit Sharma, whatever the jersey number they are carrying while playing any cricket or playing any sport, there is no significance number of those jersey number. That is only for identification because some वो बैठा हुआ है, all those commentators who are sitting in a stadium, they are not able to recognize from almost 100 meter, 80 meter, 90 meter away. So what they do see, they are just recognizing from the jersey number. So that nominal skill is all about the indicating the individuals, indicating the data. Order is all about the rankings. Whatever the registration number, whatever the ERP ID you have, there is no significance of those ERP ID because that ERP ID is reflecting the only student name. Then the ordinal skill is all about giving the ranks. In every month, you see the ICC cricket tournament rankings comes the top 10 performance or in terms of bowling, in terms of batting, in terms of the all-rounder in Test cricket in one day in 2020. The ordinal is all about the giving the rankings. Then interval is all about if the numbers are used to rank attributes such as numerically equally distance on the scale represent equally. Now you just need to be understand how many people are coming under the which category. 0 to 5 में कितने लोग आ रहे हैं, 5 to 10 में कितने आ रहे हैं. Suppose I've been taken any class test that consists the 100 marks, and out of those 100 marks there are only 50 students. I just need to be understand how many people are coming under 90 to 100 category, 80 to 90 category में कितने लोग हैं, 70 to 80 category में कितने लोग हैं. So for example, the difference between 1 and 2 is equal to the difference 3 to 4. For the difference 2 to 4 is difference of 1 to 2. So measuring the temperature is an example of interval scale, but we can't say 40 degrees centigrade is twice as the hot as the 20 degrees centigrade. So interval में हम लोग क्या करते हैं, we are making out certain the class interval. We just need to be understand how many people are coming on a which category. Because whenever your data is 1,000 people, you can't make it out the characteristics, you can't make it out the interpretation of 1,000 people. उसमें क्या करेंगे, you can make it out the range. Out of those 1,000 people, these people are coming in a 80 to 100 bracket, these people are coming in 60 to 80% brackets. So with the with the interval scales, with the interval scales, you can't make it out conclusive statement. You can't make it out. ऐसा नहीं कह सकते हैं कि टेम्परेचर इज कमिंग 20 डिग्री एंड 40 डिग्री 40 डिग्री जस्ट ट्वाइस हॉटर एज कम्पेयर टू 20 डिग्री. नो. Example of the interval scales: food supplied to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the qualities. When we are making out certain class interval in interval can. Then we have the ratio scale. At the highest level of the measurement scale, it has properties of the interval scale together with a fixed absolute 0 point. The absolute 0 point allows us to construct a meaningful ratio. Ratio scale permit the researchers to compare the both differences in a score and relative magnitude to the score. Example of ratio scales include weight, length, and the times. For example, the number of the customers at the bank ATM the last 3 months is a ratio scale. How many people who have been visited the particular ATMs? This is because you can compare with previous 3 months. लास्ट 3 मंथ में 100 लोग आए, इस 3 मंथ अगर और उससे लास्ट 3 मंथ में 50 लोग आए थे, तो यू कैन से कि लास्ट 3 मंथ ऑलमोस्ट people became the yeah customer became double in the ATM. The difference between 10 and 15 minutes is the same as the difference in 25 to 30 minutes, and 30 minutes is twice the long as the 15 minutes. So ratio in how many times 50 से 100 हो गए तो डबल हो गया डेटा, 60 to 100 हो गया तो हाउ मच टाइम्स डेटा हैव बीन इंक्रीज. सो रेशियो इज ऑल अबाउट how much times the data and have been become double triple. Last year you sale was 100 rupees, this time your sale became 200 rupees. And what you can interpret it from this, your sale became double in the last 2 years. There are certain other scaling techniques. I have a dedicated video for this also. I don't think any other faculty who have taught these many skills, so we will not discuss. But scaling techniques, again, this is a advanced skill, competitive skill, non-competitive skill. In a competitive weight comparison, rank order, constant sum, Q sort. In a non-competitive, continuous, itemize, we are Likert, symmetric, and stable skill. I have a dedicated video. You can watch those videos if you want to learn these many skills. I have already taught these skills in the class also. So paired comparison, if you want to be comparison between the two brands, so you can make it out the paired comparison skills. Rank order, if you're giving the ranks, you are giving the 4 ranks in a with the, and you can't give the same rank to the two other brands. If there are 40 students in the class, and out of the 40 students, if you can't give the same rank to all the 40 students, we apply the rank. In constant sum is all about if you're giving the certain value to the 100, these 100 values you have to be divided into these many attributes of the product and services. And if you are giving the highest out of those 100 scores, 50 scores you are giving the price, that means price plays a very vital role. The non-competitive continuous and itemized. Continuous is all about the 0 to 10. We take, this is how would you rate a TV advertisement, 0 to 10, strongly agree to that, strongly disagree. We follow these scales in our feedbacks. Itemized we have the Likert scale. Many people, at least from my section, they have been done the feedback survey for the assignment number 1. So they have made the questionnaire from the Likert scale. Likert scale is the 5-pointer scale. Pointer means how many options you have: 7-pointer, 8-pointer, 9-pointer, 5-pointer, 3-pointer, 2-pointer. 2-pointer is a dichotomous. We'll discuss further. 5-pointer is all about the Likert scale. There are only 5 options. Semantic differential scale is all about the seven pointer. There are 7 options. Whenever you want to see it's a bipolar scale. There is 7-point rating scale at the endpoint associated with a bipolar level, such as good and the bad, complex and simple. Now, further selecting significant a number of issues decide the choice of scaling techniques. Again, very important. What are the how to select the scaling technique? These are the issues you just need to be understand. Problem definition and statistical analysis, choice between competitive and non-competitive, types of category level, number of categories, balance versus unbalance, force versus non-force. This is all about scaling. Now further we are dividing this to data, how to collect the data, collect and update. Again, we have a dedicated video. Just clicking on the link, the separate link will be open. So what is all about the collection of data? You require certain data to collect the result. Collection of data is all about divided into 2 parts: primary data or secondary data. Primary data is known as the data collected for the first time through the field service, as data are called collected to specify set of the objective to assess the current status. So primary data is collected in the very first time. Second data is collected in the, which is data is already available in the public domain with the in the form of books, in the form of audios, in the forms of YouTube videos, in the form of visuals, in the form of reports, research paper, thesis, and books. This is coming under the primary data. Primary data, we have a tools questionnaire, interview. In a questionnaire, we have five questionnaire: open-ended, close-ended, multiple choice, Likert scale. Sorry, open-ended, close-ended, multiple choices, tutorial. Clear? In the interview, we have a structured interview, an unstructured interview, focus interview, depth interview. In the same time, we have observation of 5 days. We'll discuss further. Participant, non-participant, control and uncontrolled observation. Feedback form, Salesforce opinions, projective techniques, and mechanical devices. This is all about classification of the data. Further, we'll start with the प्राइमरी डेटा. आई थिंक एवरीबडी इज क्लियर विद द प्राइमरी डेटा. व्हाट इज ऑल अबाउट द प्राइमरी डेटा? प्राइमरी डेटा कौन सा होता है? जो पहली बार कलेक्ट कर रहे हैं थ्रू द क्वेश्चन और ऑब्जर्वेशन. सेकंड डेटा विच इज ऑलरेडी अवेलेबल इन द पब्लिक डोमेन. What is observation? Observation is a method of data collection used very frequently whenever collection of data through the other method is difficult. For example, it is not possible. I always give the same example. If you want to see the people who live in a hill station, psychology of the people who live in a hill station, आप कोई क्वेश्चन यार से कलेक्ट करने की कोशिश करेंगे, यू विल नॉट गेट इट एनी appropriate information. While sitting at Bangalore, sitting at Delhi in an AC room and want to be collect the data from, check the psychology of people who are living in extreme हिल स्टेशन, तो नहीं मिलेगा डेटा. आपको क्या करना पड़ेगा? यू हैव टू बी गो देयर. आपको उधर रहना पड़ेगा और आपको ऑब्जर्व करके समझ में आना पड़ेगा. यू हैव टू बी रिजाइड फॉर ऑलमोस्ट 15 days, 20 days, 30 days, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. This is called observation. Observation from your experience. That is called observation. So we have certain types of observation. Structure observation. Structure observation all about पहले से ही पूरी planned guidelines होगी. When the observations take place strictly in accordance with the plan or design prepared in advance. Suppose I am the researcher. What I am doing? I have been given certain set of the questions, set of the items to you. You go to any shopping mall and observe these many things. What are those items I have been given? You just need to be check the parking. You just need to be check the guards, check the security, the washroom, the showroom, the food court. So structure observation, I have given the 10 items to you. You have to be reach out to the 5 different malls of the Bangalore or Delhi or Gurgaon or some other respective part of the country. Then you have to be observe those things. This is called structure observation. On structure observation, what I have been said, I have been told to you go to the any shopping malls of nearby area. You just need to be observe 10 different things. अब मैं 10 लोगों को ऐसे लोगों को बोला तो 10 के अलग अलग लोग अलग अलग सब कुछ ऑब्जर्व करके आएंगे बिकॉज दे ऑब्जर्व एज पर देयर ओन एक्सपीरियंस. Participant observation is all about. In this method, the observer is very much present in the mindset of the what is observed. For example, suppose a researcher is studying the lifestyle of a hill tribe, then it might understand the lifestyle of the tribe better only when they stays with them. सेम एग्जाम्पल आपको पहले दे दिया. आपको कोई हिल ट्राइब के बारे में आपको ऑब्जर्वेशन करना है तो आपको अच्छी ऑब्जर्वेशन तभी हो पाएगी व्हेन एवर यू आर रीचिंग आउट टू द हिल स्टेशन, देन यू आर जस्ट ट्राइंग टू बी अंडरस्टैंड दोस थिंग्स. When the researcher trying to be involved himself in the part of the study, that is called participant observation. Non-participant observation, this is this method whenever the researchers keep detached from the actual situations. That is called non-participant observation. I've been given an example of suppose any crime happened in the society. Policeman is coming in a civil or in a normal uniform, normal dress, and trying to be understand what happened in the past. Because वो पुलिस वाली यूनिफॉर्म में आएगा, whenever he is asking any question from the society, living in the people who are living in society, वो ठीक से नहीं बताएंगे. वो आया एक सिविल ड्रेस में आया, उसने पूछा कि क्या हुआ था. Actually, he is observing the things, but at the end of the day, he is keeping a detached himself from the original situations. तो लोग ठीक से बता देंगे what happened. So this is a method where the observers remain detached from the wherever, whatever is happening around. It does not involve himself in any activity takes place. Is present only to observe, not to take part in the activity. All those people who are working in IBs, intelligence bureaus, and the raw, what they do, they are the perfect example of the non-participant observation. They are living in societies with the very common people, but they know each and everything what is happening across the society. In controls observation, there is a chances of the biasness of the controls observation is always very high. Suppose that कल आपको बोल दिया कि somebody is coming from the higher authorities, they are going to be somebody is going to be observed you. तो obviously बात है कि in the meanwhile you are going to be cure all the problems you had. These are very regular meetings of the NAC or NIRFs in our colleges, in our medical officers, in our hospitals, in our DRM in the railways, or any ministers, any defense ministers, any highways ministers to come in to test, to check the quality of the roads. आपको पहले से पता होगा कि कोई आपको ऑब्जर्व करने आ रहा है, तो इन द मीन वाइल यू जस्ट ट्राइंग टू बी सॉल्व ऑल द प्रॉब्लम्स व्हाट यू हैड। सबसे ज़्यादा वॉइसनेस आपकी कंट्रोल ऑब्जर्वेशन में होती है। दिस इज ऑल अबाउट द मेरिट्स एंड लिमिटेशंस। Then coming to the interview, I think everybody knows what is the interview. Interview is a structured interview. We have the unstructured interview. We are focused non-directive telephone. Structured interview, the set of the questions we'll ask. The very first question, suppose that I've been given the set of the questions to you. You have to take the interview in the same manner. The first question will you tell me about yourself, then what you have, what is your qualification, why should I hire you? And at the end of the day, we have made the list of the question, and you are asking one by one question. That is called structured question. Got it? Unstructured question, structure question, I think well prepared. So interview is conducted in the focus manner. Unstructured, there is no specific question what interview कब कहाँ से पूछ रहा है. That is called unstructured interview. Any question they can ask from any time or they can start from anywhere. Focus interview is very in this type of interview the object of the interview is to focus the attention of the respondent in a very specific issue. For example, suppose the detective is questioning a person regarding a crime committed in the area. Detective has to be very much experienced to make the person interview to answer only about the crime and nothing else. This time, the interview encourages the respondent to say whatever he likes and feels at the subject matter. The focus or depth interview हम लोग क्या करते हैं? Just need to be understood very simple languages. You are giving the full freedom to the respondent. Your question will be very small and giving the full freedom. Then the only the respondent will speak much. अब बहुत ज़्यादा बोलेंगे at the end of the day they'll be able to give the correct answer also. In some suppose that कोई college में strike हो गया, you just need to find out the reason. Wait, what was the reason behind the college strike? The telephoning, everybody know what the telephone interview. Coming to the questionnaire methods, very important. The open-ended question, closed-ended question. Open-ended questions are subjective type papers. The what is questionnaire method? What is the macroeconomics? What is the performance appraisal? Write down the 10 method of performance appraisal. That is called open-ended questions. Closed-ended, what is the capital of India? Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Bangalore. That is a closed-ended. Pictorial is all about. I'm just giving you certain picture of certain place. Then you just need to be understand. पूछ लिया कि ये पिक्चर कहाँ की है. Giving the picture of the Taj Mahal, then you have to be understand. This picture belongs to the which place? Agra, Delhi, Bangalore, or Chennai. Yeah, that is Agra. Dichotomous here. Very important. Dichotomous में whenever you just want to be see the result in a yes or no or true or false, positive or negative, to apply the dichotomous scales. In these questions, two alternatives are given, positive and the negative. Dichotomous questions तभी apply करते हैं चापों का whenever you are applying logistic relation, the independent variables in a dichotomous. The multiple choice wherever you can put more than one answer, one and two. All those UPSC question papers just like multiple choices. One, one, two, three, three, two, four, two, three, four, all the above. That is called wherever you have more than the one answer. That is called multiple choice. But this is all about questionnaire construct procedures, how to make it out the questionnaire. We have a certain demographic information, then we put socioeconomic information, then finally we put the questions related with the variables. Then the scheduling, there is a certain difference in scheduling and the questionnaire. Questionnaire is all about the आपने क्वेश्चन बनाया गूगल सीट पे, माइक्रोसॉफ्ट पे, यू हैव सेंड टू एवरीबॉडी इन अ सेम टाइम में. बहुत सारे लोग भर सकते हैं, बहुत सारे लोग यू कैन कलेक्ट द इन्फॉर्मेशन इन मेनी पीपल्स इन सेम टाइम. बट शेड्यूलिंग इज ऑल अबाउट ऑल दो सेंसेस. जनसंख्या सेंस, पॉपुलेशन सेंसेस इज ऑल अबाउट द एग्जाम्पल ऑफ शेड्यूलिंग. Whenever they are reaching out to your place, they are asking how many people are living in your house, whether you have the car, do you have the bike, or this is an example of scheduling. Scheduling is always scheduling the time taking, it's a cost evolving, but whatever the information we are fetching from scheduling, which is most appropriate as compared to the questionnaire. This is a basic difference you can understand questionnaire and scheduling. Got it? Then secondary data we have primary source and we have secondary sources. I've been already discussed internal source and external sources. What if the data is already available in the public domain? जो data पहले से ही public domains में उसको हम लोग secondary data कहते हैं. Got it? Then coming to the next topic is a very important topic, pilot study. What is all about the pilot study? It is difficult to plan a major study on project without adequate knowledge of the subject matter. The population is to be covered. Their level of the knowledge and understanding the likes. अब suppose that ये सोचो आप Whenever you just want to make it out the product for the 140 crore people in India, whether those product quality is sufficient or appropriate, price is appropriate, उस पहले एक साथ ही आपने 140 प्रोडक्ट बना दिया एट द एंड ऑफ द डे प्रोडक्ट गॉट फेल्यूर at the end of the day who have to face the losses company. So what they do certain sampling 50 to 150 100 200 what they do, they are making a certain pilot study. Once they are getting the appropriate result from the pilot study, then they are making out the final production of the product. This is called pilot study. So rather than taking the data of the 1,000 people, firstly we're taking the data of the 550 people, 100 people, applying tools and techniques. If your result is appropriate, then you are further expanding your research to the across the 1,000 and 5,000, depending on the sample size, whatever you have chosen. Got it? Next topic is type 1 error and type 2 error. The type error is when the your null hypothesis is when the accept the null hypothesis. Type 1 error and type 2 error. Type 1 error when commit the error when we reject a null hypothesis. The null hypothesis सही होता है when the null hypothesis is true but you reject the null hypothesis. That is called type 1 error. Type 2 error is all about when the null hypothesis is a false but you accept the null hypothesis. Opposite. पहले मैंने क्या करा, आपने null hypothesis को reject कर दिया but it was a true. But second time what you have done, it was a false but you have accepted the null hypothesis. Got it? Simple. Any doubt? Type 1 error and type 2 error. Then it's all about the difference between the descriptive analysis and the inferential analysis. Descriptive is all about, I've been discussing in the class also, we do the descriptive analysis all about to summarize the things, summarize and describe the main features of data set with the help of the mean, median, mode. In an inferential, what we do, use sample data to make generalizations, predictions and decisions about a larger population. जब आप लोग whether you are collecting the research data from 100 people, 40 male, 60 female, that is called descriptive. But you are writing the out of the 100 people, 40s are male and 60 are female. Whatever the interpretation what you are putting down, whatever the conclusive statement you are putting down, whenever you are interpreting the output, that is called inferential. Got it? So what is the purpose of descriptive? To provide a snapshot, inferential to draw a conclusion and test the hypothesis. Focus focus only the data set, focus on making the predictions and inferences beyond the data set. Got it? Now, next topic and the last topic is all about the multiple and the logistic regression. What is multiple regression? It is a statistical techniques used to examine the relationship between one dependent variable on the two or more independent variable. Regression analysis is all about to predict the future, so predict the data. Clear? So whenever you want to be see the how the advertisement is impacting on the sales, जब एक ही वेरिएबल की बात करें कि हाउ द एडवर्टीजमेंट इज इम्पैक्टिंग ऑन द सेल, दैट इज द सिंपल रिग्रेशन. Then whenever we have how the advertisement, the brand name is impacting on the regression, we have the multiple factors are impacting on the sales, that is called multiple regression. You just need to understand the how to, some teachers can also, faculty can also ask in the question paper in a, I've been seeing so many times in the UGC net category, UGC net examination, some other competitive examination, what they've been asked to make the basic equation, how to make the equation. The basic equation is equal to y is equal to plus b1 plus b1 x1 plus b2 x2. Now depending upon how many variables we have. If we have two variables, so a plus b1 plus b1 x1 plus b2 x2. If the three, then b3 x b3 x3 b4 x4 b5 x4. So y is equal to क्या होता है, dependent variables होता है. Dependent variable is all about the outcome. A is equal to intercept. We always keep. Then b1 b2 is all about the regression coefficient depending upon the how many independent variables we have. We have the 100 independent variables, 200 depending upon the. So you have to add on each and everything. So y is equal to a plus b1. कैसे definition, कैसे for आपको वो equation बनाना है, you just need to be understand whatever the variables are given in the question you have, whatever the variables are given in the output, you have to y is equal to a plus, if suppose that there are four variables, age plus gender, a plus g1, second is some other is income plus psychology, then fourth is city or towns, whatever the variables you have depending on the outputs. You have to add all the things. How to multiple regression equation we make. How do we use the multiple regression? कहाँ पर apply करता है ये भी समझना होगा आपको. To predict the value of the dependent variables. Whenever we just want to predict the value of dependent variable, we apply the multiple regression. To understand the impacts of the each independent variable on the dependent variables while controlling the others. Whenever we want to see the impact of the each independent variables on the dependent variables, we apply the multiple regression. To test the hypothesis and relationship between variables in business, marketing, HR, finance. Now, what are the things you just need to be analyzed or interpreted in output? R is equal to multiple correlation. How strongly all IVs independent variables together came to the dependent variables. R square is coefficient of determination. Percentage of dependent variables variance explained by the IVs. Larger the higher the R square, higher the model fit. Simple. Adjusted R square for number of the predictors. Regression coefficient shows direction the strength. Now, what are the business uses? Predictions, sales, profit, market share of the company, analyzing the employees' performance drivers, estimating the customer satisfaction based on the service features. They may ask what are the business uses, how do we use the multiple regressions. Then basic assumptions. What is the basic assumption of multiple regression? The data should be in a linear. The relationship between the dependent variable and the independent variable is a linear. Data should be in a linear. Data should be in a time series, in a different time zones. Clear? Only the time series data. There should be the equal variance of the errors in the data. There should not be any multi-collinearities in the data. The IV should not be too highly correlated. If independent variables are highly correlated, you will not be able to apply the multiple regression. Even if you are applying the multiple correlation, your result will not be good. और scale data should be at least in an interval or ratio scale. अगर nominal or ordinal scale में data, you can't apply the regression. 5 teaching assumptions you have to, all these 5 assumptions you have to understand. Data should be linear, independence or no autocorrelations, no multicolarities, interval of the ratio data, and next is all about the multiple correlation, and next is what is logistic correlation. What is logistic regression? Logistic regression is a statistical method used to predict the probability of binary outcomes, yes or no, success or failure, buy or don't buy, based on one or more dependent variables. It is used when the dependent variable is categorical, binary or zero. I've been told whenever your dependent variable in a dichotomous categories, I've been told in a dichotomous we have only the, yes, I'll be in the next slide. I'll be interpreting how to be interpret the SPSS output. So just need to understand what is the how to apply the logistic regression. जब आपका डिपेंडेंट वेरिएबल है कैटेगोरिकल है या डेक्टोमस है, whenever you have these two options dependent variables, we apply the logistic regression. Again explaining, whenever whenever we have whenever we have dependent variable in categorical 0 to 1, true to false, just to name, no, yeah, in other words what we can say, a categorical, that is called logistic regression. Doubt now, when to use logistic regression? कस्टमर चर्न प्रिडिक्शन, ये स्टे और लीव कितने लोग आ रहे हैं कितने लोग जा रहे हैं. लोन डिफॉल्ट प्रिडिक्शन, वेदर डिफॉल्ट और नो डिफॉल्ट. ईमेल क्लासिफिकेशन, स्पैम और नॉट स्पैम. एम्प्लॉय एट्रिशन, स्टे और वाइड. Know what are the assumptions of logistic regression. You have to be understand. You take the screenshot of these particular two last two at least 3 slides. This is going to be very helpful for to interpret it and out make it out the interpretation of the regressions. Assumptions of logistic regression. Binary outcomes should be the dichotomous. So outcomes, assumptions of logistic regressions is a binary. The dependent variable outcome should be in a dichotomous. Independent observations, no repeated measures or time series unless handled properly. Little or no multicollinearities. We don't require any. If data is multicollinear, what is the multicollinearity? I've already told you. Independent variables should not be very highly correlated. Linearities of the logit, large sample size. Logistic regression needs enough cases specifically for the rare event. These are the basic assumptions you have to remember. Now interpretations. So what is all about the interpretation? You have to be understand how to interpret the ANOVA. The first is all about. We will be more concerned about these significance values. How to frame the hypothesis? There is no significant difference. That is called null hypothesis. There is a significant difference in a variable. That is called alternative hypothesis. So this is significant values denote with the p values. With values is greater than 0.05. That means your null hypothesis got rejected. Got it? So all teaching method have the same mean score. Alternative, at least one teaching method is a different mean score. F value. This is the result is all about. I'm just telling you. I wanted to be understand. I've been followed this different teaching pedagogies, and we had a different teaching pedagogy. We had a 4 different teaching pedagogy, and 3 different teaching pedagogy. And we wanted to be see the final score of the students. So either the impact of the teaching pedagogy on the student outcomes or not. This was all about the research. So variable is all about the teaching pedagogy and the output on the score of the student. So when we had a score, we have been putting down this data on the SPSS, applied the ANOVA. So what are the interpretations? The p-values are significance level is a 0.5%. We failed to reject the my null hypothesis. What there is no significant difference in a teaching pedagogy, and because if your point value is coming 0.517, that means you can reject the null hypothesis. There is no statistically significant difference in a test score among the different teaching methods in the samples. That means whatever the teaching pedagogies what have been used, student has got the same score. So what we have to do, you just need to be follow only the one parameter that is called p-value. P-value is coming more than the 0.05. Again, I'm just explaining p-value is coming more than the 0.05. That means you just need to be reject the null hypothesis. Remaining all other values you can ignore. Now, correlation between the hours studied in exam score. The second research is all about how many hours you are studying in the classes and how much scores you are getting. Suppose that you are studying 2 hours in a day during your examination, how much scores you are getting. Now, same time, many people are studying 8 hours in a school and how much score they are getting. So I wanted to be see the correlation between the number of the hours they are studying and numbers of and how much score they are getting. Here I've already explained your correlation scores always come to the minus one to +1. It's coming +1, that is called strongly correlated. It's coming -1, strongly no correlation. Anything is coming more than the point 0.5, that means is a strong correlation. It's a, clear? It's a point 0.4, point 0.2, less than 0.25. That means it's a weak correlation. But there is a correlation, but there is a weak correlation. It's coming 0.8, 0.9, 0.98. There is a strongly correlation. Now you just need to be understand how many hours students are studying, how much score they're getting. Your exam score is coming 0.987. That means 0.987 near to the 1. That means there is a strong or very strong positive relationship. होता ही है, आप जितने ज़्यादा घंटे पढ़ोगे, 5 घंटे 6 घंटे रोज पढ़ेंगे during your examination, you are going to get the very good scores. Clear? तो interpretation इसका क्या होगा? At the number of the hours studies increase, exam score also increase. The Pearson correlation 0.987 indicating very strong, statistically significant positive correlation between the two variables. This was a very simple correlation, binary correlation, or we have multiple correlation. Now multiple correlation, we have made one more factor that is called we have now attendance also. Now we want to be seek the impact of how much earlier I just wanted to be check the number of the hours you are spending and how much scores you are getting. Now we have made one more factor that is called attendance. How much attendance you have, how much hours you are spending, and how much is impacting on the exam score. अगर समझ लीजिए कि if you are coming on the regular basis in the classes, your attendance is full, you are focusing on the classes, whatever the professors are teaching in the class. So whether is there any impact or not, we wanted to see the impact. Clear? So now this is the raw data I've been picked up, hours spending, hours spending the 0.987, attendance is 1. Attend, okay. So hours studies, your correlation value is coming 0.987. That is means strongly, very strong positive correlation. And attendance is coming, the score is again 0.97. That means there is a impact of, or also coming in the month. So that means there is a strong, very strong positive correlations of the attendance. और ये very simple भी आप लोगों को पता है, if you're coming on the regular basis or number of hours you're spending, your exam score will be very high. So interpretation, more what it has written, more study hours and better attendance are both strongly associated with the higher exam score. Got it? Now, this was all about the scenario of the correlation in the ANOVA. And now, next is all about the scenario for the multiple regression. The same example have been taken, number of the hours you are studies and the class attendance and the effect the exam score. Variable is same, but we are just trying to be see the multiple regression. We have the data of the 100 students. Clear? So we just need to be see the, this is p value. P value is coming 0.000.014. That means if you, I've already told you, don't need to be see all other values in the tables. These values just need to be understand model summary and just explaining the model summary कैसे explain करा, I'll be telling you also. But p value is coming less than 0.0. That means there is a आपको सीधे लिख देना है कि आपकी null hypothesis reject हो जाएगी. क्योंकि null hypothesis में आपने क्या बनाया था, there is no correlation. There is no correlation between the number of the hours and the class attendance. But here you are seeing there is a correlation. If suppose that you just need to frame the hypothesis from this particular table, how will you frame? There is no correlation from the number of the hours spent studying or the attendance. There is hours in the exam score. और दूसरा null hypothesis आपने बनाया, there is no correlation between, there is no impact of attendance on the score. But after applying the result, what you are doing, what you are seeing, आपका क्या समझ में आ रहा, what is the output is all about, your p value is coming 0.05. That means there is an impact of the number of the hours, there is an impact of the attendance also. So null hypothesis will be rejected. Now here you just need to be see the r square value 0.56 and adjusted r square value is 0.5. That means your model is 56% fit. If your value is coming more than the 0.5, that is your model is fit. You can write your 50% model fit. If your value is coming like a 0.798, that means your model is 79.8% fit. So you have to be convert this particular thing now. You have to be see the r square value. Clear? So r square value is coming 0.5, your model is fit. Clear? You have to be explained like this. Your model is 56% fit. If it's coming 0.86, your model is very 86% fit. If it's coming less than 0.25, your model is 0.22. If your model is 0.22% fit, which is not acceptable. That means whatever the research you are doing, model is not fit. Got it? Now interpretation. What I've been told you for R square also. 56% that I've already told you also already. 56% means 56% of the variance the exam is explained by two predictor, hours studies and class attendance. This suggests is a good fit for the model. मतलब मॉडल ठीक है आपका. जो एप वैल्यू 62.30 यहाँ पर आया था, देखा होगा आपने. Area. So point p value is less than 0.001 shows the overall model is statistically significant, means at least one of the predictor significantly affect the exam score. मतलब at least एक score, एक factor ऐसा है which is impacting on your exam score. Coefficient is 40.5. When the both hours studies and class attendance are 0, expected score is 40.5. But at the end of the day, I'm just telling you, don't need to be confused. Just need to be see the only the model r square value, r value, and the p value. Now significant is all about both predictors. Both predictors have p values less than 0.05, so they are significant contributors to predicting the exam scores. If your p value is coming less than 0.05, so they are significant contributor. That means null hypothesis got rejected, alternative hypothesis got accepted also. Here also you can frame the null hypothesis also. Suppose it, I haven't made the null hypothesis, but here we have the variables, number of the hours and the class attendance. You can frame the null hypothesis. There is no impact of the number of the hours on the So R studies as a strong effect higher coefficient the t value compared to the class attendance. You can see here also कि higher the number of the R studies is having the more strong regression or more impact. So both predictors values दोनों दोनों का impact है. ठीक है. You just need to understand there is a दोनों का impact पड़ रहा है. दोनों variables directly significant है. But at the end of the day you just need to be see. But higher जो number of hours you are studying more, that is having a more coefficient value is a stronger effect. Okay? In a simple language, the study find the student who study more hours and attend more class tend to score the higher exams on score. Specifically, very extra hours of study increase score by about 2.8 point, attending an extra class at only 1.5. इससे ये भी आपको समझ में आ रहा आर्ट्स स्टडी जो कोफिशिएंट वैल्यू आ रही है ना ये दिस इज कोफिशिएंट वैल्यू 2.8 एंड 1.5. इसका मतलब ये है व्हाट इज दिस ऑल अबाउट द एडिशनल आवर्स यू आर स्पेंडिंग एडिशनल आवर्स यू आर स्टैंडिंग सॉरी एडिशनल आवर्स यू आर स्टडिंग. अगर आप 1 घंटा और ज़्यादा पढ़ रहे हैं तो आपको कहीं ना कहीं वो 2.8 पॉइंट इंक्रीज कर रहा है आपको. बट इन सेम टाइम फॉर एक्स्ट्रा क्लास यू आर टेकिंग आपने एक क्लास ज़्यादा कर ली दैट इज इम्पैक्टिंग द 1.5. तो एट द एंड ऑफ द डे आई ऑलरेडी टोल्ड यू आवर्स स्टडीज जितना ज़्यादा घंटा पढ़ा दैट इज हैविंग द स्ट्रॉन्गर इफेक्ट. और मॉडल आई ऑलरेडी टोल्ड यू इधर लिखा हुआ था 56% आर स्क्वायर. तो दिस मॉडल एक्सप्लेन द 56% of the variation in the exam score, making it the reliable predictions tool in the context. It. Next is example of the business example. A company want to study the how the advertisement budget and the brand name extend the impact social sales. Advertisement and the brand name, how it is impacting the total sales. The collect the following from the 10 product. We have a 10 product 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Advertisement in a dollars. $20,000, $25,000, $30,000. The brand name is scaling the 1 to 10, the total sales. Regression equation, I have already told you how to make the regression equation. There are two variables. So I've been made a plus b1 x1 plus b2 x2. But here we have the many variables like a say after sales we have the store outlets, number of the people. It can be x2, b2 x2, then b3 x3, then b4 x4. Now you just need to be understand the same what we have been done in a multiple regression, number of the hours and attendance. The same here also you see the significant values is coming less than 0.05. That means there is an impact of the advertisement on sale. There is an impact of the brand name on the sales. Now model values is coming यहाँ पर क्या आ रहा है? It's a 0.90. That means your model is a 90% fit. It's a very strong. Your model is very good. 90% model, 90% model fit. Clear? Advertisement is either 5 or 8. What this means? You are putting down the 5,000 extra dollar on advertisement. You are getting the additional significance, additional sale, but in the same time, brand name playing vital role. If anybody is asking what is more important, so additional आप brand name पे ज़्यादा खर्च करेंगे, ज़्यादा additional amount of the money you are spending on the brand name, that is going to be impact more on the sales. Got it? So you will see the ANOVA table also. That is also coming the. So if the significance values is coming less than 0.05, already ANOVA value is also coming the also 0.00. So that means your all the variables what you've been taken advertisement and the brand name which is impacting on your overall variables. That means your model is fit and your null hypothesis got rejected, alternative hypothesis. Now how to frame the hypothesis here? Hypothesis कैसे frame करेंगे? There is null hypothesis, there is no advertisement, there is no impact of the advertisement on the sales, there is no impact of brand name on the sales. Clear? So you can frame that hypothesis here and how to accept and reject. If your p-value is coming less than 0.005, that means your null hypothesis got rejected in both the times. Interpretation is all about model fit. The R square value is 90, meaning 90% of the variance in total cell is explained. My advertisement budget coefficient, I've already told you. Every additional 1,000 is spent on advertisement, sales increase by $5,000. Beta value is 5. The same is each 1 point increase the brand name, increase the sales by 8, holding the advertisement budget constant. So how to make the regression equation? You can make the regression equation like this. A is a constant, that is called 50. Then V1 plus X1, then V2 plus X2. Clear? So here is a 50, advertisement 5 plus 30, and 8 into 9. Accordingly, you can make it. No need to do the calculation. I don't think anybody is going to be asked how to make it out the regression, but they can ask how to make it out the regression equation as per my understanding. So whatever the variables you have to have, accordingly you have to be understand age and gender or any social economic background qualification. You have to be make the A plus the same manner. You have to do A plus B1 plus X1 plus B2 to X2. So this is all about the today's lecture. If anybody is having a doubt, to ask me. I've already shared the PPT. You have to watch at least twice and thrice to understand. In the same time, the chi-square, any test or any questions are coming just like chi-square also, you have to see the p-values. Where we do apply the chi-square? Chi-square we apply whenever we have the data in the non-parametric test. Whenever we are applying any non-parametric test, that chi-square is the non-parametric test. Data is not normally distributed or collecting the data through the nominal scales. We do apply the chi-square. And chi-square also goodness of the fit we do check. But at the end of the day, if the p-value is coming less than 0.05, then we can reject the null hypothesis. Okay. So thank you so much for joining. Only if any doubt you have, again you have to watch the video. You can send me the message on the WhatsApp. Thank you once again. Thank you.